G'day guys and gal. While this video honestly should be orc themed due to it still being October, I'll be honest, I've completely run out of orc ideas for now, and I've been wanting to make this video for a while, so here we are. Wow. But like Martin Luther King Jr. said, there's an orc inside all of us, at all times. So yeah, happy October. The Horus Heresy was a mountain of spaghetti, with each strand of delicious pasta being its own plot point. Many of these plot points were pointless, many were satisfying and reached awesome conclusions, and many tied together nicely. However, some were never resolved, incredibly compelling and impactful plot lines that just sort of never ended. This would be okay if it wasn't for the fact that the setting has now progressed 10,000 years and the plot points have all technically resolved, but we haven't seen that resolution yet. Plot points that will hopefully be resolved in the inevitable upcoming Scouring series. Before we get started, what, you didn't think there'd be any orky shit at all? Guess again, as I'm happy to announce this month's VIP limited edition models. We have the Orc Warlord as well as the Orc War Machine. These models are absolute Goliaths, especially as they come in 3 different scales. The tabletop scale for your wargaming needs, the 75mm scale if you want to focus more on the painting side of things and prefer larger details, as well as the 112 scale for when you want to flex on your mates. To be honest, the 75mm scale and the 112 scale for the Orc War Machine is probably the most lore-friendly size. The Orc Warlord would be the ultimate centerpiece for any Orc army. It's a callback to an older design, but brought back with newer detailing and scaling. The Orc War Machines are a rendition of the King Orc, done in a more detailed modular way. Both orcs have numerous arm and weapon variants, and as always, are super limited and will never come back to the store. Most VIP limited sales are sold out by the end of the weekend. The detail in these things is insane. As usual with the VIP limited launches, these are not actually major minis. The Orc War Machine was done by a 3D art guy as part of a collaboration we have going on, and the Orc Warlord is from an anonymous modeler. The STLs for the Orc War Machines is on 3D art guy's mini factory page, so if you have a 3D printer, then go nuts there. As a bonus surprise, we're also bringing back the pre-painted Major Mini offer. For amazing value, you can order Major Minis pre-painted in either Battle Ready Standard or Parade Ready Standard. The value here is insane. In one purchase, you're getting the model and the paint job with a completed base, and you can even pick what paint scheme and base you want. This was massively well received last time we launched and we instantly sold out. However, there was a shipping issue with the painters, so we had to pause it, move heaven and earth, and now we're back up and running. Only Major Minis can come pre-painted. Unfortunately, we won't be doing the VIP limited orc launch as a part of this. But yeah, big tings, link is below. Today we'll go over each of the unresolved plot points from the Horus Heresy, as well as how I think it will end up being resolved. Then for every one I get correct when we one day find out, you gotta order a Major Mini. Let's get into it. Let's start with Barthusa Narik. As we all know, I have a hard-on for this man. Generally, I hate word bearers. They are insufferable and I love it when they die. However, Narik is so base that it almost makes me like them. Narik was a word bearer who decided that chaos was cringe and that his father, Lorgar, must die. Hence, he went on a quest across time and space to acquire the means to kill Lorgar, even teaming up with Eldrad to destroy the Cabal in the process. To reward him for his efforts, Eldrad gives Narik a shard of the Fulgurite. In it contains the power to kill a Primarch. Narik was last seen infiltrating the Siege of Terra, killing his wordbearer kin, hunting for Lorgar. However, Lorgar was banished from the heresy by Horus after Lorgar attempted to usurp his brother and become the new War Master, so Narik was on the wrong planet. Lorgar also seems to still be alive in the current setting as a demon prince, although he has been in hiding for nearly 10,000 years. With Narik featuring in multiple books, it's strange that his plotline would just end so suddenly. So what do I think will happen? I believe that in the Scouring series, Narik's quest will pick up. I believe it will end with him confronting Lorgar and even stabbing him with the Fulgurite shard, maybe with the help of Corvus Corax. Narik will then be killed, however the wounds he inflicts upon Lorgar is one of the reasons why Lorgar has been out of the setting for so long. That's my theory, let's see how it plays out. A massive tease during the entire heresy was whether the traitor Primarchs were justified or not in thinking the Emperor was a lying hypocrite. This all hinges around what actually happened on Molech. As a bit of a cheeky lore TLDR, the Emperor entered a unique warp portal on Molech. When he returned from it, he appeared aged and much more powerful. It appears that he gained a power-up and the knowledge required to make the Primarchs from his journey. Now Chaos claim that they struck a bargain with the Emperor and the Emperor reneged on that deal, which is why they are mad at him. Other minions of Chaos say that the Emperor stole the power from Chaos, thus also why they are mad at him. The Emperor himself doesn't speak of what occurred, and he even mind-wiped everyone involved and sealed the gate. We're never told what actually occurred, so we never know if Chaos had a point. My theory is that this was a special warp portal that gave the Emperor much more access to the warp than normal, kind of like a warp control room. From here, he was able to coax or kidnap 20 minor warp god entities and brought them back with him to create his Primarchs, thus explaining why Primarchs have such massive warp presences and can seemingly bend destiny to their will. Chaos believes the entire warp is their domain, hence they consider him taking those minor warp gods as stealing. The Emperor didn't want to tell his Primarchs what happened, as it's pretty cooked to tell a bunch of warp gods wrapped in human flesh that gods don't exist. But that's just my theory. As of now, we don't know exactly what happened. This next one is a bit of a niche one, but we like it niche. We're fucking Warhammer fans. What was the fate of Arik Tyrannus, one of the last surviving Thunder Warriors? The Thunder Warriors were the cheap, brutal, but powerful precursors to the Astartes. They were excellent at battle, even more powerful than a Space Marine. However, that was about it. They had very little aptitude for diplomacy, tactics, or the bigger picture. They were also extremely brutal, and the Emperor knew that would be terrible marketing for the Imperium. Not to mention they developed super cancer mixed with dementia and started dying early. Thus, the Emperor had the Thunder Warriors culled by the Custodian Guard. Arik was one of the few Thunder Warriors to escape the cull, and he managed to hide in the slums of Terra, becoming a fearsome crime lord with a handful of other Thunder Warriors. Arik was unique in that he was a genius, and he managed to keep himself and his brothers alive for over a century using crude science. He believed that if he could acquire some Space Marine gene seed, he could reverse engineer it and turn himself and his brothers into proto-Space Marines, giving them immortality. Surprisingly, Arik also wasn't mad at the Emperor for what he did to the Thunder Warriors. Arik would have done the same thing. Arik's story ends with him actually acquiring gene seed and managing to clone it and stabilize it, thus more than likely giving himself immortality. Because of that, I suspect we will see him as a Thunder Warrior Space Marine hybrid boss character in the Scouring series, and who knows, maybe he'll even pop up in the current setting. Probably unlikely though. The only Space Marine that I wank harder to than Bethus and Narik is Nykona Sharrowkyn, a Raven Guard who decided that all traitors, from the lowest cultists to the highest Primarch, were on his kill list. This guy slaughtered Chaos Champion after Chaos Champion, killing the greatest duelist in the Alpha Legion as well as Lucius himself. He even squared off against Alpharius without hesitation. However, we don't have a definitive end to his story. We last see him arriving in the Sol system and then going through Hell in order to retrieve a very important piece of tech called the Magna Matter, before putting himself and the Magna Matter into stasis. The thing is, the Magna Matter is what was used to create the Primaris Marines, so at some point, Belisarius Cawl did actually retrieve it, thus he would have also retrieved Nykona Sharrowkyn. The question is when? Did Cawl get the Magna Matter only a few centuries or millennia after the heresy ended, thus Nykona would have died now off screen? Or was it the final piece of the puzzle that he had only recently acquired, meaning Sharrowkyn could still be alive in the current setting? It's unclear, but either way, the most badass Raven Guard to ever live needs a cool ending to his story other than just, then he froze himself, the end. Now put on your confusion boots and tinfoil hats as we now talk about the Alpha Legion. At the end of the heresy, it's revealed that an entire force of Alpha Legionnaires are in stasis under the Imperial Palace, awaiting orders, with Ingo Peck, the first captain of the Alpha Legion, being trapped on a landmine. So what happened? Did Peck escape the landmine and awaken his brothers? Did he blow up? Did he eventually die of starvation and dehydration? Are the Alpha Legionnaires still in stasis under the palace? It was a big reveal that as of yet, nothing has come from, but I'd like to think that Ingo, who was a loyalist, managed to free himself and his brothers, creating one of the loyalist Alpha Legion warbands. This ties into the next unresolved plot point. Was the Alpha Legion loyalist or traitor during the heresy? The answer seems to be both, which is no answer at all. It seems that Alpharius was a traitor who thought he was doing the Emperor's will, whilst Amigan was a loyalist pretending to be a traitor. They had multiple plans and contingencies, with Alpha Legionnaires killing each other all the time during the heresy. Until we get a monologue from Amigan explaining everything, it remains too murky to be decisive. The Perpetuals played a big part in the heresy, whether it was Cyrene confounding chaos, John Grammaticus and Alanis saving the Emperor, or Vulcan creating the Talisman of Seven Hammers. They were all heavy hitters, but what actually happens to them? After all, a few did actually survive, and they are technically immortal, so should still be around. While Alanis died, which sucks, the power of Horus overwhelming his perpetualness, John Grammaticus also lost his perpetual status when he revived Vulcan. Vulcan was around for the War of the Beast and disappeared during it after falling into a vat of raw wah, but that in itself is its own plot point. Urdar was also killed by Erebus. That leaves us with the witch Acte, who was actually Cyrene, a servant of the Wordbearers who died and came back as a perpetual psyker. Acte did a lot to help the loyalists during the siege, even fighting Erebus. Fuck Erebus, before taking on a new name to honor a friend of hers that Erebus killed. Plus she kind of mind melded with the friend as well. We haven't seen Cyrene again in the setting yet, but with her power and her being a perpetual, she seems way too important to vanish. Also, John Grammaticus is going on a quest through time and space to set things up for himself in the past, which also leaves us with a bit of an unresolved plot point. Now getting a bit dusty, let's check out an interesting plot point on Mars. When the Dark Mechanicum took over Mars, there were still loyalist elements doing everything they could to resist, but they were struggling, until they decided to go, fuck it, and released the Tabula Myriad, a super AI device that was imprisoned for being an abominable intelligence. However, the Tabula Myriad was also extremely anti-chaos and could completely purge and reverse scrap code and chaos tainter machines. For example, if it stood in front of a chaos titan, it could completely cleanse that titan of taint within moments, with even the physical mutations of the titan vanishing. The last we see of the Tabulum is it helping the loyalists on Mars fight back, cleansing corruption and giving them clear, concise and awesome tactics. It's unclear if it eventually will be destroyed or imprisoned once again, but I'm keen to find out. The Dark King was a big part of the end of the heresy, however the Emperor banished it from himself. He didn't just banish the Dark King though, he also banished the Star Child. However, you can't just delete god tier stuff like that, there's always an echo. We don't know what the ramifications of the Star Child or Dark King is yet, but with the Emperor awakening, these aspects of himself may soon come back into play. Ooh la la. And finally, the last interesting unresolved plot point for today, the fate of Leuthen, the first ever Space Marine. Leuthen was created before the Primarchs as the ultimate prototype. He was handmade by Erda and the Emperor themselves, thus he was special. After all, he got dumped in front of all 4 Chaos Gods and not only avoided death and insanity, but remained completely uncorrupted. He is last seen about to be interrogated by the Loyalists after the heresy, playing with a deck of tarot cards. But being such an important guy, I'm hoping his eventual fate is more interesting. Maybe he found something dope or creates a legacy that echoes into the current setting. Either way, I don't think this is the last we will see of Leuthen. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then pick up the Orc War Machine, the Orc Warlord, or any other major mini, including the pre-painted ones. Remember, these models are limited. Hit the subscribe button and hit the real subscribe button for more unresolved content. Join the Discord for more memes and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.